What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from The Quartering, and it looks like Bill Maher is canceled again for the millionth time, because that's what happens when you pander to that particular crowd. Now, I've never been a huge Bill Maher fan, mostly because I could never afford HBO, and so I never watched his show. I didn't even know it was even still on. Most of the takes I see Bill Maher have are pseudo-intellectual, orange man bad type takes, but I'm sure he has some good ones. Most of the time I run across Bill Maher is when he is criticizing the left, the side that worships him because of his orange man bad takes. And of course, it's fine to criticize the sitting president. It's actually very, very healthy to criticize your own tribe, so to speak. But Bill Maher has often stepped in it, whether it's his self-proclaimed blackness and a use of certain words, getting publicly cucked by Ice Cube after saying that word. Bill Maher is an interesting fellow. Now, before I get into this video, huge shout out to this video sponsor. With everything going on right now, sponsors are few and far between, but NordVPN has stuck by this channel in these uncertain times. And look, since everyone's stuck at home right now, a VPN is an absolutely great way to access your content worldwide. Look, we don't need to look any further than the nightmare scenarios my fellow YouTubers have gone through with getting their channels hijacked or worse, as a perfect example of things that can go wrong online. I've been using a VPN for the past year or so, and it's been NordVPN. There are a lot of reasons to use VPNs, whether you want to access your favorite entertainment like Netflix anywhere in the world, or you're just worried about a service that has a super fast server farm with over 5,500 locations in 60 countries. NordVPN has no data logging, 24/7 customer support, and you can have up to 6 simultaneous connections, protect your laptop, your phone, and your desktop. You want to talk about awards? How about that NordVPN has been selected as the best VPN in Best VPN Awards for 2019. Now, I have a special offer at nordvpn.org/thequartering with promo code quartering, where you can save 70% on a 3-year plan, plus get 1 month free. Do yourself a favor, protect your data, protect your precious information, and head on over to nordvpn.org/thequartering and get your deal today. And again, thank you for allowing me to play sponsors. March and April have been brutal on YouTube, and I'm really thankful some of these sponsors have stuck around. Now, I saw Bill Maher trending on the Twitter earlier today. And it's been an interesting story, I suppose you could argue. You know, I thought that there'd be more to this. I thought there would be more to this story, but there really isn't. Bill Maher said that it's okay to call the coof the Chinese virus. Why? Because scientists have literally always named diseases by their origin. He also aptly points out that it's not, by the way, Chinese isn't a race. So again, calling him a racist for saying this is ridiculous. In his video, he talks about MERS, he talks about Zika, he talks about Lyme disease, he talks about literally every disease ever being named by where it originated. And he also talks about inconvenient truths, that China seems to be manufacturing all sorts of these. SARS was them. The current situation is them. There's, what was it? Bird flu, I guess, was them. So according to Hollywood Reporter, Bill Maher questions naming of the coof. Why should China get a pass? The late night host used his New Rule segment on Friday to explore the history of diseases being named after the places like they come from, like Zika and Ebola. Scientists, quote, who are generally pretty liberal, have been naming diseases after places they came from for a very long time, Maher began. Zika is from the Zika forest, Ebola from the Ebola River, Henty virus from the Hentan River. There is West Nile, the guinea worm, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and of course the Spanish flu. MERS stands for Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. It's plastered all over airports and nobody blogs about it. This is an excellent point. Bill Maher, from what in my experience, even though he can tend to act like an NPC, has always been a free speech advocate and has made a career of calling out his own tribe, which is rare, given he so obviously panders to one side of the aisle. It's refreshing to see that. And he raises a great point. Earlier today, I shared a tweet where a WHO member, I think it was, who was it exactly? I want to bring it up because it's super relevant. They shared, I guess, a reporter asked somebody at the White House what they thought about people being offended by his use of Big Mama. Here. Black man uses black terms of endearment. Infinitely triggered reporter. People are offended at the language you use. That's what this reporter used her time at the White House to literally ask about offended people. This is the culture that is hilarious, that I've built this channel on roasting. I want people who would consider themselves liberal to feel comfortable watching my videos, entertained, and have their thought provoked at times. I want people who consider themselves conservative to do the same. But I operate under the hopeful agreement that we all can call out our own. And we can call out the absurdity of the conservatives calling for video games to be censored because they cause real-world issues. We can talk about the absurdity of people worrying about people's feelings in a time, in an unprecedented outbreak where we're struggling to contain things and keeping people out of the morgue. I think that most of my viewers can agree that we all agree that both sides are idiots at times. The Late Night Show emphasized, seriously, it scares me that people are out here who would rather die from this than call it the wrong name. And later in the segment, he backed up his point by noting that physician and infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci recently suggested that a global closure of wet markets due to their possible link in the outbreak. He suggested that might be. Continuing his thought experiment, Maher said, so why do people say, what if people hear Chinese virus and blame China? The answer is we should blame them. Not Chinese Americans, but we can't stop telling the truth because racists get the wrong idea. There are always going to be idiots out there who want to indulge their prejudices, but this is an emergency. Don't we have bigger tainted fish to fry? Jesus, if the sun was exploding, Twitter would pile on the first guy to call it a dwarf star. That's kind of a big brain joke. But the idea that what drives a lot of this censorious language from the far left is they're worried that some idiot here is going to do something to a Chinese person because of the coof. And there have been isolated videos of morons doing this. Calling it what it is isn't going to change how morons react to it. If you are one of a tiny percent of people that are still racist in 2020, your actions will always be seeking justification because they are not factually based. You will latch on to anything you can, whether or not people call something Chinese or not. To take it out on an American citizen is even more absurd and should be called out by all sides and should receive the strictest possible punishment. And I don't understand how anyone would equate the actions of an unhinged person to the language millions use around the world. The fact of the matter is, this is about censorship. This is about compelled speech. Nobody cared when literally every other disease was ever named. And perhaps it speaks to the level of privilege some of these people have, that in the face of unprecedented disaster, they still have time to be offended by words. I mean, the world is literally in a panic, and they're worried about feelings. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. This is absurd and should be mocked. And people who ask questions like in the White House about people's offense should be laughed at by their fellow reporters, not propped up and called stunning and brave. Look at some of these morons on Twitter. Every time there's an opportunity, Bill Maher shows how smug liberal persona can be when it's used as a veneer for racists who think they're not racist. Oliver Willis. Getting replies from Bill Maher fans, who I guess are okay with enabling hate crimes. No thanks. Okay, so did he have a problem with Zika or with the Ebola? I mean, and by the way, again, calling it Chinese is not... These people don't even know the definition of their own words. Noah. Bill Maher, the racist, misogynic, Islamophobic poophead. F him. What? Here, Oliver Willis again. I see Bill Maher has once again weighed in on the racist side of an argument, as usual. Why is it... What? If you're wondering, if you're scratching your head and wondering, you know, how these people got to be where they are, I'm right there with you. I don't love Bill Maher, mostly because he comes across as pseudo-intellectual to me, but he's correct here. And if you can't agree and defend people whom you normally disagree with when they're in the right, in the correct, I should say, then you're a hack. Then you're a partisan hack. And just because I don't like Bill Maher and because I think he's an NPC doesn't mean I'm not going to defend him here. And this is what happens when you pander to the perpetually outraged. That's whose audience is. It's a lot of young millennials who are looking for sound bites, and sometimes they just don't like it when they're pushed back against at all. You should be calling out your own tribe. You should be calling out bad opinions, regardless of the side of the aisle that they're on. And Bill Maher does that. And when he does that, it's, to me, his most redeeming factor and why I will always defend him. I don't think it's reasonable to blame Chinese people. Of course it's not. Do I think that they should strongly consider closing down some of these markets temporarily? Well, Bill Maher makes the point in his monologue that if we knew in America that Hot Pockets were leading to this type of, were strongly linked to a problem going on around the globe, they would be banned. Now, he says, I'm not sure people would stop eating them. Maybe, but I would expect the government to come in and cease production. And I think I could live without Hot Pockets, just like I think they could live without eating bats or bizarre animals that have strong links to carrying disease. This is not the first time. He also talks about how if it was linked to China and found that they were knowingly spreading this, it would be WW3 right now. So whether or not it was intentional, it's a continued gross negligence that continues to lead to these outbreaks. And this isn't the first time. You shouldn't be worrying about hurt feelings. You should be worrying about saving lives. And if you are still in the position of defending hurt feelings, then perhaps you need to experience a little more hardship in your life so you can truly understand what the rest of us clearly understand. I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll talk to you again real soon.